I guess I'd kind of like to guide the conversation into a specific place of positive mental attitude. And the creator that brought that into my consciousness was W. Clement Stone, who he popularized the idea of PMA, is the acronym they shortened the positive mental attitude idea with. W. Clement Stone was known as a reverse paranoid, where he believed the universe was conspiring to do him good. So anything that came up in his experience, he would always
understand that things are working out for him and look for the evidence of it. Yes.
Absolutely, and he would always find it.
Yes.
And
but when you start from that premise, isn't that what we've been talking about all day here today? When you start out from that premise, then the evidence must show itself to you. But if you start out from the premise that the evidence is missing, then that's the evidence that is shown to you.
You can never find it.
We think he was onto something.
We think he still is. So I think a lot of what you teach, Abraham, is somewhat the same as the way he taught his philosophy. And it's been passed down.
The fact that he used the word positive mental attitude means that he was recognizing that in the focus and in the reaching for the positive, meaning the good feeling, he was capturing the essence of what we're talking about. We've just explained it with a bit more detail as we help you to understand why the emotion that you feel feels one way or the other.
Right. I like hearing the backstory. It helps. It helps to understand how things are created, and that helps us to create what we want. So I guess that's kind of where I would like to kind of influence people to keep moving, is towards what they want. And what we want, as you've said so many times, is to feel better, to feel relief. And that's what we're always striving for. And sometimes the striving feels like effort, and sometimes the striving feels like ease or thriving rather than striving.
What makes people resist the simplicity of that idea? In other words, if you say to people what you really want is to feel good, many of them would just say, well, that's too simplistic, or that's perfectly obvious. But when you realize that in the acknowledging that feeling good is what you're really reaching for, and that there are no limits. In other words, let's say that someone is without the means or the money to do things that they want to do. So their desire for more dollars flowing into their experience becomes very keen. And maybe they've lived that way over a long enough period of time that they've really sharpened that desire. They're not allowing the money in yet, but they've really sharpened that desire. And so then they come across the idea of going general, of playing down anything that makes them feel negative. They come across ideas of positive mental attitude. They start telling a different story. They begin speaking more of what they want and speaking less of what they don't want. And they begin shifting their vibration deliberately and subtly over a period of time. And they begin allowing more money to flow into their experience. And so some might say, well, that person has found the secret of their success. They wanted more money to flow, and they allowed more money to flow into their experience. But that person is not finished, because with the money that flows, now they have more opportunity to participate in more things. They can now buy properties that they couldn't afford before, or they can engage in businesses that they hadn't done before, or they can buy things that they've never done before. So now they have fulfilled one desire as the money began to flow, but now they've opened themselves up to all kinds of other desires that their new life experience is now providing for them. Now they are realizing that with the properties comes responsibility, and with the things comes maintenance, and so now there's a whole new host of intentions intentions that are being born out of that. This never-ending stream of desires is being born. And so now their desire for someone to maintain properties comes about, and then they have to discover what their belief or faith in people is about as they go through long lists of people who don't maintain it properly, or who run off with the property, or who abuse the property, in other words. And so now they begin discovering that there is more alignment for them to discover as they bring themselves into alignment with the idea of appropriate maintenance and so forth. Through every bit, we started to say phase, but it's so general and gradual that it doesn't even feel like phases. You are constantly birthing more desires, and the ability to satisfy those desires always is there and shows evidence to you, provided you care about the way you feel. And so as you keep coming into alignment in time, because your life will just take you to another place and another place and another place and another place and another place. You want another house, then you want a house with more closets, then you want a house with less closets, then you want a closet with more clothes, then you want a closet with less clothes, then you want a closet with the perfect clothes, then you want a closet with no clothes. In other words, you keep your life experience keeps causing you to define the specifics of that which you are wanting. And what we want to say to you is that at the basis of all of this, when you come across the understanding that in all of that, what you really want is to just feel good, and that the defining of the specific things that you think you want to materialize in your life is only the excuse you use for discovering how balance works, then in time you can find yourself in a place of perfect balance relative to all things. In other words, in the same way that it's air in and out, and if more air comes in than goes out, you're in trouble. And if less air comes in than goes out, you're in trouble. With money, if more money goes out than comes in, you're in trouble. And even if more money is coming in than is going out, you're in trouble. In other words, it's about energy. If you're asking for more than you're allowing, you're in trouble. If you're not asking for all, if you're not allowing all that you've asked for, you're in trouble. In other words, there is a balance in all things that makes us want to say that every moment in time is a moment of perfection for anyone who understands that balance, you see. So when people begin trying to define success, and there was a lot of that in the body of work of this person that you were talking about, when anybody begins to try to define success, that we talked about this earlier, we want to define it as the ability to acknowledge that emotional balance within myself. That is the best definition of success, to be able to identify the balance within me, which means air in and out, money in and out, food in and out, energy in and out. In other words, it's always that balance of asking for all that I am capable of asking for, but learning to allow every bit that I'm asking for, and not asking for more than I can allow, and not allowing less than I'm asking for. Now that is a very general statement, and it sounds very simplistic, but it is the basis of all true success. And all true success is about happiness. It's about joy. It's about satisfaction and fulfillment. It's about lining up with who you really are. It's about allowing the source who is within you and who is aware of you in every moment of every day. It's about allowing that source to be present in the thought that you're thinking, because you haven't crowded that out with a vibrationally contradictory thought.
Which is very easy to do.
It is easy to do.
At least for me, it was, earlier in life, or maybe more in teen years of life. It was definitely easy to crowd myself out of my experience, I guess is what we're calling it. And today we've talked a lot about observing and focusing, observing others, what others have that we might not have, or what others do that we wouldn't do or want to do, or how others see us.
We would like you to shift that tenacious appetite to observe into the framework of wanting to observe how you feel when you see that, how you feel when you think that. In other words, let your observation be about how it resonates with who you are right here and now. In other words, if we want you to observe, we want you to sift through the data, we want you to discern, we want you to discover preferences, we want you to define the details of what you want to live, and we want the universe to yield to you the specifics in the wondrous ways that it is capable of delivering. But from a practical standpoint of what you might do as individuals to enhance your experience, to fulfill your reason for being, to satisfy the desires that you held when you made the decision to come, we want you to understand that these things you knew. You knew that you were eternal and ongoing. And you knew that it is endless, the opportunities that you will have to define the specifics of what you want. And you felt certain that you would be satisfied moment by moment in the unfolding. When you find yourself, any of you, in a place where you feel that there is some injustice, where someone else has received more than they deserve, and in the process of that you are getting less than what you deserve, or when you are observing some injustice where you feel that someone is being mistreated who should be treated differently, when you see lack of any kind anywhere, if you could just acknowledge to yourself that in that moment what you're really feeling is your disagreement, and in some cases your vehement disagreement with the way the broader part of you who is out here on the leading edge with you is observing this same moment in time. And if it would be your quest from this moment forward to find resonance with the way that source within you sees this moment. In other words, you see something, and for whatever reason, maybe it's for some principle that you've been carrying around for a long time, you feel disappointment in the person, or you feel that there is something about that person that you are criticizing, and you feel validated in your criticism because there are plenty of other people that would rally with you to point criticism in that way. If you could stop in that moment and just acknowledge simply that the fact that criticism is existing within you at all means that you have found contradiction with that which is your source. And then if you would take it the step that we really are asking you to take, this is the step that almost no one is really understanding. If in that feeling of disagreement, you would understand that not only are you out of vibrational whack with who you have become as you've been living this physical experience, but you're out of whack with all that you've become through all that you've been living. And the most significant thing is that in this moment where all that is wanting to be present and forward with you in this potentially dynamic moment of co-creation, that in this process that you have brought fully forward into this powerful now, that source is going to have this moment, but you are depriving yourself of it. Can you feel that? In other words, you've done everything that you said you would do. You came and you sifted through the data. You came and you put into your vortex things that you want. You created a moment in time where the fullness of all that you are can be realized, but for some squirrely reason, you are using something as your excuse to pinch yourself off from the moment that source is having that you provided. And that's why someone says, I feel like a fraud. That's why someone says, I feel disappointed in myself. That's why someone says, I feel unworthy. All of these things are just ways of describing what it feels like when you, in any moment in time, which is where all of your power is, deprive yourself of the celebration that all that is having in your moment. You have the ability to be so brilliant and so clever and so funny and have such good timing. You have the ability of being so prosperous and so healthy and so satisfied and so full of life in every single moment. And to the degree that you allow yourself that positive mental attitude, to the degree that you allow yourself to feel good in the moment, you allow that powerful now. Seth said your point of power is in the present, and what Seth was trying to explain is that right here, right now, all that has been before is focused fully with you right here, right now, ready to have this new leading edge moment. Your point of power is right here. And we would like to speak on behalf of Seth and God and Jesus and Buddha and all who have come before, and take it one step further into clarity of saying that all of us from non-physical are having this moment. Are you having the moment too, or are you depriving yourself of the moment?